Well, big shakeup in the college football playoff talks. Commissioners are back to square one for the 2026 format, and the SEC's push for strength of schedule could be huge for teams like Mississippi State. Here's why this matters.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Go to FanDuel.com. I'm Jaron Sport, National College Football writer at Athlon Sports. That's Landon McBride. We have a football-packed show for you today. Changes could be coming to the college football playoff. We knew those were possible, but now we're back to square one. We're going to break down what exactly that means. Also, it is a massive visit weekend for football, the last big one of the summer. So we'll break down who all we think is going to be there. Not everyone, but some of the key players to look for. And if we think any commits will come out of that, then obviously we end every Friday with Next Up in Starkville. And yeah, there is a lot actually to go off with that one. So we'll talk about more of that later on. But let's start with the playoff. Brett McMurphy, who does a great job covering college football, he tweeted out, this was back on Tuesday, I believe. He's tweeted, conference commissioners have decided to start over on determining the 2026 college football playoff format. He said the Big Ten and SEC, which we know, they both wanted 4 automatic qualifiers, each with 2, or each with 4, and then 2 each to the ACC and Big 12. However, the ACC and Big 12, rightfully so, they pushed back on that. Yeah. SEC coaches later publicly did not support the 4 automatic qualifier model, instead preferring 5 automatic qualifiers plus 11 at-large format for 16-team playoff, as did the ACC and Big 12. However, the SEC wants more value given to the strength of schedule metric, something college football playoff executives discussed in that meeting on Tuesday. However, a source told McMurphy, even if strength of schedule is supposed to carry more weight with committee, it still boils down to their opinions on who they think are the best teams. Deadline for finalizing this is December 1st. So a lot of stuff to unpack there, but kind of what's your thoughts from McMurphy's report?
Part of me misses the BCS now, is what this report makes me think. Like, it's so confusing. Like, we're fighting. I mean, I understand why they're fighting.
I guess, what is your favorite model of all the ones proposed? Or maybe you have one that's kind of off the wall.
To be honest, I don't know if mine is what's proposed because I can't keep up with what's being proposed. But I think the 4 Power 4 conferences, those champs should get an automatic qualification. And the highest ranked group of 5 team, assuming they're not like 8-4, the highest ranked group of 5 team should get automatically qualified. The rest of the next best teams get in, but you don't get, a guaranteed top 5 seed because of your automatic qualifier.
Right. The thing they changed for this next year.
Yeah. You're guaranteed a spot. That's what I think should happen. And to get rid of this best.
What do you do with Notre Dame?
They're going to get blown out. Why do I care? No.
Right. But not being in a conference. That's the one I struggle with. I almost feel like you now force them to get in a conference, but that's never worked. Because they're never going to give up the NBC deal because that's massive money for them.
They should give up the NBC deal just so we all don't have to listen to Jason Garrett call games anymore. But hey, that's what they want to do. The best you can do is be a 6 seed, I guess. You just got to. You're never going to get one of those spots, but.
Well, I guess even if they don't get an automatic qualification, if they're the number 2 team in the country,
they still get in.
With us not doing the first top 4 get automatically in, then they're automatically in.
Yeah, I think that's top 4. Good. And this whole best team, strength of schedule, all that's going to change based off of how the different conferences are represented on the committee who's making the decisions every year, which is why I say bring back the BCS. Keep the college football playoff format. You decide, okay, the conference champs get this. This is where these next ones come from. and then the people get out of the way, and you let that computer model pick those teams, because as much as we hated how it turned out when there were more than two good teams, or you had the one very good team and then two teams that were neck and neck for 2 and 3, they pretty much got it right most years who those top 5 teams were. So why not bring that back to decide who makes the playoff, and then let those playoff teams duke it out?
I'm with you on that, because I struggle with the strength of schedule too, because college football is not like the NFL. And I know there's different strength of schedules, but NFL, you're playing NFL teams all the time. So,
Yeah.
but college football is so different. Like the ACC isn't as tough as the Big Ten, so their conference slate isn't as tough as the Big Ten. And if they're not playing a tough non-conference, then they're definitely not as tough as other teams are playing. And so I understand the strength of schedule, but the thing I hate is just choose the best 14. Forever it's choose the best 4 teams. Or now it's choose the best 7 teams, because 5 automatically get in. So choose the best 7 teams. How do you do that? There's no way to do that, because it's subjective. Everyone could have a different opinion on what the best team is. One person could watch and be like, man, that offense is incredible. Miami's offense is incredible. Their defense is terrible. Their offense is so good, I want them in. They're one of the 7 best teams. But then another person can be like, but they can't stop anyone. Now, this team has a great defense. Their offense isn't very good, so I think they're one of the 7.
Don't talk about Iowa like that.
Right. But at least with the BCS, you can put I think you need to have a strict formula for deciding it.
Mm-hmm.
So strength of schedule, you put put that in there. Strength of record, even, you can put that in there. There's other things metrics that you can put in there. And then let it formulate who the top 12 is. That is a way better method than Joe Smo over here going, well, I like Boise State. Yeah, I like that eye test. And it's like, yeah, a lot of you don't even watch football, period. So what's your eye test? Like, some of the guys that they have in there, like, when they have the coaches in there, I feel like the coaches do really well, because they know what they're looking for. But when they have, like, celebrity in there, and you have some athletic director, like, they're watching it as fans, and like, we are too. So we're saying, like, if we were in that, we would do a terrible job too. So it's not against them. It's just we couldn't do as bad as they do sometimes.
I mean, I do better than some of the people they have in there, but
right?
That's the coach.
And that's because what they do is they go to this hotel and they hang out and they're eating and they're drinking, and they're not really focused on what's happening on TV. Yeah. Even though they're watching all the games like that, you just can't with that many people. If it was me, I'd be like, I'll watch it in my hotel room and I'll meet up with you guys later, because I got to focus on this.
I mean, that's how I watch a lot of games. They got to do something. Do you know how bad you have to mess things up for people to start arguing for bringing back the BCS?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's really where we are. And then when we talk about strength of schedule and using different things, I mean, we've reached a point in data analysis with how we can crunch numbers that you can have 2 separate numbers for the exact same team telling you one they're a great defense and one they're a terrible defense. So depending on which one of those is plugged in affects strength of schedule. And
I would use the SP Plus rankings. Like, that's what I would put into the computer system to help, because that takes all that into account, like who their opponent is. I've seen teams that defensively, they're like 80th in total defense, but their SP Pluses, they're like 10. And the reason why they're 80 is because their offense is terrible and they're on the field the whole time. Like, all that stuff matters. And so I like that stuff. But as for Mississippi State, you obviously have to get to be a good football team before you're even in these college football playoff talks. But if it does pass where strength of schedule is the biggest threshold that they talk about, obviously record is a big one, but one of the biggest ones, I should say, that's only going to help you, Mississippi State, because you look at this year, there's some people that say they have the toughest schedule in college football. We definitely know they're top 5 as the toughest schedule, but some think they are the toughest schedule. Yeah. So that's only going to help them moving forward, playing these tough schedules, because you're going to get to the point where you're going to get a 9-win SEC team or a Big Ten team in the college football playoff, in my opinion, just because of how tough their schedule is. You could see it with Texas this year, because Texas is playing Ohio State in the non-con. If they lose to Ohio State, let's say they lose to Ohio State, Georgia, and
someone else.
Let's say they lose to Oklahoma, like a big rivalry game. They lost on the last second to Oklahoma, and all three are close. Ohio State's on the road, Georgia's on the road, and then Oklahoma's in the Cotton Bowl. Let's say they lose those three. Texas probably still gets in at 9-3.
Oh, yeah. Probably do. I mean, if strength of schedule matters that much, Mississippi State wins 4 games, we might be in the playoff this year.
Yeah, right. Right. Just get to that 4. We haven't figured out who the 4th one is yet, but get to 4.
Get there.
Yeah. But no, it would be big for them moving forward.
It really would. It'd be big for, which is probably why, SEC and Big Ten are the two proponents of that, because as conferences have expanded, they've just had so many good teams that the strength of schedule is just crazy, pretty much no matter what draw you get. I mean, yes, both conferences have a couple weaker teams, but top to bottom, they're so deep. And it's just creating a whole new set of problems that did not exist when the playoffs started.
Well, and when you do a conference schedule that takes up 8 or 9 games of your schedule, it makes it really hard to balance strength of schedule. You almost would have to say, let's cut back and do 6 conference games and 6 non-conference games. You would almost have to do something like that, but you don't want to do that either, because that's weird especially when you're trying to figure out who's your conference champion. But you don't almost have to do something like that, and then you would have to do let's do a computer generated thing for the 6 non-conference. So you're not playing the same easy team. Everyone just kind of is, in limbo of who they play, and so then it's a little more fair. And it would probably be based on who your 6 conference games are that year, because some years it's going to be really hard, some years it's going to be easier, so on and so forth. But yeah, a lot of things to figure out. But all right, Mississippi State, we have a big official visit weekend. Some of it started actually yesterday, but we got to talk about that. That's coming up next. Well, the NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. One of my favorite teams to bet on and one of my favorite players to bet on is the Oklahoma City Thunder and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Also, actually, in Game 5, it would have been really good to bet on Jalen Williams with the performance he was going. And that's the great thing about FanDuel. You can do same-game parlays like I mentioned. So during the game, you can make these parlays. So if you see Jalen's having this big performance, you start betting on him, and he has this great game. It's not just for basketball, but basketball is what's been in full swing the last 2 months or whatever it's been. So definitely get in on the action. And like I mentioned, your $200 in bonus bets could get you first $5 bets. Or you could get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. That's all. It's that easy. So if you're new to FanDuel, it's a perfect time to set up. Head over to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet, get that $200 in bonus bets if yours wins. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so some of the official visitors for this weekend have started to, or just visitors in general, most of them are official, but have started to make it known that they're making their way down there. Adam Land tweeted out that he is coming. He's obviously the tight end. He's I believe he's tight end. And he's making his way down, or making his way to Starkville. And we also have Iverson McCoy, who he's a guy I've said that I would at least have an eye on. Maybe he doesn't commit this weekend, but I think something could be in the works here pretty soon. Antoine Q. Thomas Jr., who is a defensive end, he tweeted out that he was going to be at camp. That was actually yesterday, so he was at least there for that. But there's several others. Jaden Taylor is expected to be there, 3-star athlete, and Mississippi State commit. Jacoby Green, offensive lineman, another offensive lineman expected to be there. TJ White, linebacker, supposed to be there. We've mentioned him several times recently. Xavier McDonald is another one that is expected to be there, 4-star from 2026 wide receiver, 4-star prospect. So a lot of guys coming in this weekend. So
many guys. And I believe I've seen that Jaden, no, I think it's Cratian, maybe Cradian. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name just yet. Wide receiver, looks like he's going to be there as well. He's on the list. I've seen articles about how he's coming down, so expect to see him there. Was it expected in the ballpark of 20 people? I mean, that's a huge weekend. Now, I think about 5 of them are already committed to Mississippi State, but I mean, that's huge because those guys can help sell these other 15 that are there on joining them. And, like we mentioned, Brody McCorder has talked about how he's going to recruit guys. We've seen
and he's expected to be there.
He's expected to be there, and he's already recruited himself just about a whole new offensive line. And there's a couple pretty good wide receivers coming in. Let's see if he recruits himself some pass catchers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Xavier McDonald, he's a guy that I'm looking at some of the offers from some of these kids. They've got some offers. It's going to be a battle. Xavier McDonald just came off a visit at LSU. A lot of people think the Tigers have momentum right now. Florida is another one that is trying to get him to visit. Try to get him to visit this weekend, actually. And so it kind of seemed like it was up in the air if he'd make it to Mississippi State, but he is coming. TJ White has visited Tennessee, North Carolina, Auburn, and Florida State. And he recently got an Ohio State offer, the 4-star linebacker. And, even Jacoby Green, he visited Florida State earlier this month. So, again, a very good offer there. But he really likes his relationship with offensive line coach Phil Loadholt. Has talked about that quite a bit. So it's just these guys, they've got some really good offers out there. They've already visited several really good ones, on some of them on official visits, and it's not going to be easy. But that's why this weekend is big. Guys like TJ White, for example, he's a guy that we mentioned that is a big focus. Him and his teammate Darion Albert. I can't remember if Albert's going to be there this weekend, but I do know they're both deciding to commit together, and that won't be until July 18th. Landon and I have talked about that a couple of podcasts ago, actually. But still, you hope to land at least 2 or 3, and I think you are. What did we set it at the other day? 4 was the line at 4.
About 4 is what
we thought. Yeah. And not necessarily that 4 will commit this weekend. We just think 4 players that come this weekend will commit.
Yeah, and one of those that I'm kind of keeping my eye on is Evan Goodwin, another offensive lineman. He's 4-star tackle. His other visits, Oklahoma State, Missouri, SMU, all of those have already happened, and now he's coming to Starkville. And we talked about how important it is to be one of those last visits. If you knock it out of the park here, there you go. That's another big get for Loadholt and the future of this program. Because, he is 6'7", 325, very talented tackle. Watching him would be great. And then another offensive tackle, Bryson Cooley. Seems like it's kind of down to Mississippi State and LSU. We talked about, blanking on his name, Mari blocked him out, the guy who flipped to LSU.
Yeah.
Could LSU kind of be out on Bryson Cooley because they flipped the other guy. So maybe you're in the driver's seat for him now. There's a bunch of guys that you could come out of this weekend with.
Yeah, that's fair. And we talked about offensive line. Obviously, it has to be changed over. And to their credit and to Loadholt's credit, they have put a major emphasis on it. We saw it in the spring transfer portal. Got several guys in. We see all the guys are going for during the season as well, or during this recruiting class as well. And so they're really pushing for some of these guys. And then on top of that, this weekend, you got Jax Pope not coming to the visit, but he canceled his Stanford visit, remember, because he's actually committing this weekend. And I believe it's Saturday at noon is when he's committing. So you might get some good news just by that right off the bat. It's always good when a guy cancels a visit, but we know how poor the offensive line was this past season. We know that's a big reason why he was hired, Phil Loadholt, because he obviously had a great NFL career. He learned under Bill Beanbo at Oklahoma. While Colorado wasn't great last year, they were actually much improved from the year before. He's doing a lot of impressive things already as a somewhat young offensive line coach because of his long NFL career.
Yeah, he's a very young offensive line coach, and we're going to keep calling him very young because he's not that much older than me. So I'm going to need
Keeping it.
But one other guy I'm watching is Zion Crumpton, and part of that he's a South Florida commit, and he visited there last week. And I mean, it's always just fun to flip somebody who's already officially committed. So I mean, that's someone to watch. And again, he's a receiver, smaller guy, 6'1", 165. But I mean, pretty solid 3-star guy. And that's another one to watch because, yeah, he's committed, but he's taking a visit a week after. So,
right.
Could be an easy flip.
Yeah, could be an easy flip. And again, I just think this weekend, obviously it's big with McCoy coming there first off, because again, you get him around your pass catchers, you get around your offensive lineman. He can kind of sell the vision that he's seeing. And, the one thing I love about him so far, Brody, is he is really out there when it comes to trying to get guys to come to Mississippi State. And he's very outspoken. He is very much on social media doing that. And so let's see if he can, relate that into getting some guys committed. That's the next step. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of what we're looking forward to, next up in Starkville, we're going to talk about that. That's coming up next. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. Let's talk about what we're looking forward to this weekend. Landon, what do you got?
Well, I think I just did a lot on what I'm looking forward to, but beyond just all of the visits for football, I just keeping an eye on what Brian O'Connor's doing. We mentioned how many. I mean, there's still a lot to do in that transfer portal. We mentioned they're in on some catchers, a couple other Virginia transfers. Just kind of seeing if they, like we said, we don't expect Henry Ford to actually announce anything anytime soon, but beyond Ford, kind of put a bow on the transfer class. Do you get one or two more guys to really kind of push you over the top? That's what I'm having my eye on.
Yeah, so earlier I said there's a lot actually going on this week, and you'd be surprised. And I knew Landon was going to go with the baseball route, and that's why I said what I said, because I am not going the baseball route. I will say this. I kind of gave it away last segment what my answer was when I mentioned Jax Pope. So what the thing I'm looking forward to the most is Jax Pope commitment this weekend. Like I said, Saturday at noon Central Time. I haven't seen if it's going to be broadcast anywhere. So if someone knows, put that in the comment. I'm not sure, but I talked about him back, a month ago, or maybe even 2 months ago. That
we did 10 minutes on him.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his game, and so I'm really excited about this commitment. I got even more excited when the Stanford visit got canceled, and so that's what I'm looking forward to. Hopefully on Monday we get to talk about a commit. Hopefully we get to talk about multiple commits actually with the official visit weekend, but hopefully we get to talk about that one the most.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jax Pope too. I think he'd be a great fit here, and there's just so much going on, and for there to be nothing going on, there's so much going on that's going to affect this next season and the next 3-4 seasons of both baseball and football.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Jaron. Check out my work over on Athlon Sports. That's Landon. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Post daily videos over there Monday through Friday. We also post a question on every YouTube video. We love your feedback on there. And like we said right there, if you know about Jax Pope's commitment, if it's televised or if you heard anything like that, put that in the comments below.
You've got the link for it, put it in there.
Yeah, for sure. And we also we post a poll separate from all this. So comment on that poll or respond to that poll, whatever you want to do. We said, I think in yesterday's episode, sometimes the comments don't pop up in our notifications. So we apologize if we miss it, but if you just click and vote on the poll, that's the easiest thing to do. Then if you want to comment, just comment on the main video, because we get those in order, and so those pop up a little easier. But yeah, other than that, we hope you have a great weekend, and until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.